What up, nerds, and welcome to another ringing episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 421, recorded on Tuesday, March 28th, 2023. We're going to be releasing this May 3rd, so we are coming at you from the distant past. We're talking about another classic. Tonight is going to be 1998's Ringu. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Randeezy. What's up, man?
What's going on, children?
How we doing, everybody?
Doing good.
We ready to talk about some rings and some VHSs and some 90s and some Japan?
Yes, it's a
we
ringy
got it
ding.
all, baby. We got it all.
All the best things. All of them.
If
90s
if somebody gets
Japan.
a ringy ding on, yeah. We're all very familiar, of course, having grown up there.
It. All about it. How haunted their VHSs were. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy. Last but not least, calling in from South Korea, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy Saki at Toomey Stains. I gotta keep it consistent.
Wow. Soju
Real
at Toomey.
reductive, Juice. How are you going to come into an episode on Ringu like that?
Dude, you know what? We're in Japan right now.
We are.
Well,
Not
That's
recording
true.
from
in
now.
a sense, yeah.
At the time of
As-
you
at the
listening
moment-
to this, we are.
At the
I
time
hope
you
we're
listen
in
to this,
Japan
if it is
right now.
immediately as the second it drops, then yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. We're probably being cursed at the moment because we're watching some spooky
Probably.
VHS tapes, because that's just what we're going to do.
You guys try and make
I
me
s-
watch some spooky VHS when you come back. I'm just going to say no. I just got to let you know.
If
I'm just
we're
not going to do it.
if we're staying
Randy, you gotta watch this.
If we're
No,
staying at a
I don't even
hotel-
watch our podcast. Why would I watch that?
if I go to the fucking clerk at the hotel and I see a wall of VHS tapes and I ask for one that's unmarked, that is just homemade porn. It's what it is.
Yeah,
That's true.
I'll take that.
that
blank
is
tape.
absolutely true.
Let me
It
get
might
that.
actually be more disturbing than the Ringu tape.
Yeah.
So,
My eyes.
It's
I'll
probably
never
just
see
the
again.
clerk's homemade porn that he's trying to slip in. It's part of the fetish.
Oh, I recommend.
That's what a boy likes.
I recommend this. You'll love
Ah,
it.
yes. Come
Strange
back and let me know
American
how you
fool.
feel about it.
yeah. Leave
Tell
us
me
a
if you
rating.
want the sequel.
I feel hungry and horny at the same time. It's weird.
Whoa.
So plump, so right.
Whoa. Well, let's get
Randy,
into
why don't you just get a personality guy?
And it's too late to start now.
severely
Trying to
lacking.
compensate, huh?
Fuck, man. We do what we gotta. Some people are born with charisma. And some people
have
are
sound
me.
bumps.
Yeah.
Let's tackle
touch me.
a little bit of housekeeping real quick before we get into the main event. We do have our June poll currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this June. We got a brand new poll up for you. The theme for June is going to be 90s invasion, and the movies to vote between are Mars Attacks, Independence Day, and Body Snatchers.
Whoa, Bob, make a wild assumption about what those numbers are looking like.
I'll try. Last time we did this, we were all pretty wrong. I'm going to say Mars Attacks will be in first place, followed by
Okay.
Independence Day, and then Body Snatchers.
I think Earth Girls Are Easy going to take this one. I think it's a walk to the finish for Earth Girls Are
Totally.
Easy.
Totally.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I think haven't maybe at least on one previous poll we pushed for Independence Day, or we had Independence Day
Yeah, we
trying
did.
to cover it on Independence Day, but it lost out. I don't remember what it lost to, but I always forget about that one until it comes up on 4th of July time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. All of them would be awesome to cover,
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your votes in before the end of May, and we'll see what we're talking about in June. Since we're recording so early, I don't know what the mini casts are that we just dropped or are about to drop, but I'm sure they're fucking great. So make sure you listen to all
Oh
those.
my god, dude.
All those are
The
also
best
on
ones are the ones we
Patreon.
haven't done yet because we haven't had a chance to fuck them up.
I hope it's not episode 100. Oh, God, because, that's a big one.
Oh God! No, I think that's July, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Oof.
So check out all of our mini casts. We got a pretty solid back catalog over on Patreon. We're creeping up to 100 on there, so there's quite a lot of extra content for your ear holes. That's all we can really get into on Patreon because I don't know shit. I don't know what's going on. Juice, we got some YouTube.
That's
stuff,
a bump.
Right? What's going on?
All right, yeah. So since this is coming out the first week of May, the last week of April, we dropped a new Creature Comforts episode over on YouTube. Definitely want to give shouts outs to that because I had a really special guest, Caitlin from Plug It Up. She and I talked about the butterfly effect with Shaboy Ashton Kutcher, and that was a really fun discussion. I really enjoy hanging out and talking with Caitlin, and yeah. It was fun to go back and watch that movie again. I hadn't watched that movie in a long, long time. So it was interesting. And
do the haircuts look stupid yet?
Probably. I'm trying to think.
Probably. Come on, you're a young man. You're not beholden to nostalgia here.
I know. Yeah. You know what? It didn't really strike me that strong as like feeling very dated. I'm sure it was.
That's good.
Yeah. It didn't like it style wise, at least. And then also too, we at some point dropped a new Tiki video for the new Evil Dead film that came out. Bob, you were cooking us up something sweet. The Tiki Fuck, I believe, is the title of that one.
Yes, that is correct. It is based on a cocktail from the Ash vs. Evil Dead series called the Pink Fuck. And I tried to recreate that at the house, and it tasted awful. Like really something like nobody should ever consume. So I made a tiki.
Do you think maybe that was the point?
I just think people wrote shit down and never really. It just needed to be pink. I think
they didn't anticipate that Evil Dead fans would eventually try their recipe. I don't think so.
That they are.
I think that they knew full well what they were doing.
Wow, what a hardcore horror fan you are, Bob. You made a cocktail from.
You're really putting yourself in mortal peril for the love of the game.
Jumping on the bandwagon. Don't worry about it. But I made a really dope tiki-inspired version of that, and I called it the Tiki Fuck. So if you want to check that out over on YouTube. And enjoy that while you're watching the new Evil Dead Rise movie or kicking it at the house, watching Ash vs. Evil Dead. Please do so and let me know what you think of it.
Come on, moment of glory!
Would you say you did better than the Evil Dead series itself?
It is consumable.
Did you say you're superior in all ways to Sam Raimi?
I'm superior in every way to Sam Raimi.
That's what I want to hear. Okay.
All right. But, we'll be sure and send that clip along.
His brother Ted, though, no, he's got it. He's got the
yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
We're not fools.
Oh, yeah. YouTube shit. Randeezy, you got some stuff you want to plug?
Yeah, one thing, and I'm not 100% sure what date this is supposed to drop, but if it hasn't dropped already, then it should drop very soon. I got a chance to guest on a podcast that I was fresh to called Horror and More with Anya Gore. And me and Anya talked at length about the film The Innocents from last year, which popped up, I think, on several of our top 10 lists for the year. And we had a really great discussion. We had a lot of fun. And I recommend you go check that thing out. If it's not out by now, it will be out soon. I was told a certain timeline, but there's no specific hard date. So that's what I'm going with.
Soft dates only. Check out Anya Gore regardless. Anya Gore.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boys, how was y'all's soul trip? You know, I'm sure a lot of people got damaged. A lot of. I'm sure y'all got a lot of footage on the Instagrams and whatnot of the boys acting fools.
I'm sure it was great.
South Korea,
and everybody should check out our personal Instagrams for sure. Check those out.
I'm sure y'all got arrested a couple times.
Probably.
Dude.
So
we said Anyang to the police. We did.
Anyang.
Anyang, sir.
Anyang, I say. Yeah.
Anyang, police.
I think our house is clean.
It's possible.
His house is clean.
Nay.
That's it. You just nod and nay.
Nod and nay.
Oh, nay.
Nay.
This guy just
Nay.
this guy just agreed to a full nude massage in the middle of the park.
Nay.
Whatever.
Nay.
In a
You're
very-
beholden to it too.
Oh yeah, that's the law.
It's the law of Korea.
The law of Korea. It's like it's not even like on the books. It's just like the law of like,
It's like the law of
the law of
streets.
gravity or
the social contract that is
yeah,
insult.
just built into the
South Korea.
fabric. You know, if somebody offers you a full body nude massage in a park, you got to take them up on it.
It's
Got
rude to
to.
say no. You insult them. It's rude.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into the main event. We're talking about Ringu, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob, do you have this box?
I have the box set released from ya boys over at Arrow Video coming at you. Look at that.
Well, that looks pretty clean. Has it got all three in there?
Yeah, it does indeed. There's
Have you watched all three?
No, I have not watched all three.
Oh god!
Bob, I can't believe it.
I mean, I anticipated it. I can believe it.
Whatever, man. But we're only talking. Fuck you. We're only talking about the first one, so that's all that matters. I did watch that one.
Okay.
Ringu from 1998, unrated apparently, with a runtime of an hour and 36 minutes. Directed by Hideo Nakata, written by Hiroshi Takashi and Koji Suzuki. It stars a whole lot of wonderful, beautiful names that I'm not going to butcher for all of you listening. So check that out on IMDb. Plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. A reporter and her ex-husband investigate a cursed videotape that is rumored to kill the viewer 7 days after watching it. Gentlemen, had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randu, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so this was my first viewing of the original Ring film. I've seen The Ring with Naomi Watts a number of times. I got to think maybe 4 or 5 times in my life, and I have some fond memories of that early in my horror career. But yeah, the first timer for me. I would definitely recommend it on the basis of its place in the history of the genre. I think it's a pretty important break. What do you call that? Just a international hit. You know, it broke through audiences all over the globe. It kind of introduced a whole different subgenre that nobody had really even known about. Maybe, I don't know if there was anything before this, but at least it was popularized by this film, and that's worth paying attention to. So, yes.
All right, Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I had never seen this one before either. Like Randy said, I had seen The Ring from 2002 many times, and actually, funny enough, just covered it on A Cut Above. So I watched these back to back. And
what order did you watch them in, if I may ask?
I watched Ring first, and then The Ring in 2002. Yeah, so I watched them in the order they were released, and
as God intended. Yes.
Yeah, and I would recommend, because The Ring was a big gateway horror for a lot of people, PG-13 and stuff like that. I feel like it affected a lot of people, and I think it's important to kind of like see where it came from, and also just from the idea of like taking international horror and then bringing it to America. I think this is definitely one of the biggest ones, and probably one of the most successful ones as well, to be translated in that way. And to defend, before anybody thinks they're going to hop on fucking iTunes and write a bad review at Bob.
At me
so I took a
personally.
little I personally, so like, I'm just like weird about pronouncing things anyways. I'm not particularly good at it. So I took the Japanese translation of this film and I put it into the translator, because I was like, how is this film pronounced? Is it Ringu? Is it Ringu? And I was like, I need to know before we start talking about this film. And a lot of times when Asian languages take like a word that's used in like Western language, they will add this kind of like little extra vowel at the end. So And so that vowel doesn't really exist in English. And so for some reason, they just threw you onto it. But like it's supposed to just be ring. But in like the Japanese, like when you say it in Japanese, it kind of sounds like ring. So they just slapped a U on there. I don't know why. Yeah. So I don't know why they just didn't call it ring. But yeah. So
Justin's recommending that the Japanese language get its shit straight.
No, I'm recommending people don't at Bob with their bullshit takes.
Oh my God, this fucker can't even say Ringu. Oh my God.
These Floridians have some kind of weird problem saying Japanese phonetics. Weird.
These Floridians. I was born trilingual, actually, so you should all be very impressed.
He speaks Japanese, English, and of course the language of the love.
Whoa.
Hey,
Bob.
Yeah.
Had you seen this movie before? Would you recommend people check it out?
Yeah, I think this is my third watch of Ring. And yeah, I definitely recommend people check this one out for sure. I think it definitely is what I guess brought the notion of Japanese horror, or J-horror as it's shorthanded, to America in the late 90s. I think very few people had probably seen anything like this before. And I think it kind of sort of opened up like Japanese horror in a way, Americans to Japanese horror in a way where like we were able to discover a shitload of like really wonderful movies that if this movie hadn't really broken through, we might not have known about until much, much later. And it also gave way to like a whole long list of American productions that were really trying to bite off the style and were successful to varying degrees for sure. So that's, for better or for worse, but I think it's sort of breaking through and introducing us to this whole other culture's form of horror movies is really fucking interesting and important. So check it out for that notion, if for nothing else. And so I mean, that sounds like a pretty solid recommendation across the board here at Straight Chilling. Check out Ring. We're going to spoil the shit out of this movie, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
And here all this time, I thought it was pronounced ring. Ew.
I think it's okay if we just say ring, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
It's the intention, right? Yeah.
That seems like a prudent choice, but when have we ever made that choice?
Yeah.
So I got the full plot
Bob,
synopsis.
plot synopsis. Me.
I will plot
Please.
synopsis.
Rob, what are you waiting on? Come on.
I know.
I want you to pronounce all these names correctly.
Dude, I'm going to skip over as many as I can.
Sadeka?
The woman did this.
Sudoku, the cursed little girl.
The
Jason
very
Sudoku.
sexy mother did this.
God, she's hot. The
Predator Bob is back, baby.
his back. The movie opens up at a sleepover. We find friends Tomoko and Masami. They're discussing an urban legend about a creepy videotape that curses its viewer to die 7 days after watching it. Tomoko then shares that she herself watched a strange video last week and immediately received a phone call afterwards. Masami leaves to go use the restroom, and Tomoko then watches the TV turn on by itself and is killed by an unseen presence. Tomoko's aunt is conveniently a journalist by the name of Raiko Asakawa, who's investigating the urban legend. While at Tomoko's funeral, she learns that 3 friends had watched the tape together and have also died all on the same day from different things. Raiko herself visits the cabin, and the cabin they were staying at when they watched the videotape, and she finds an unmarked VHS containing random images. There's some like strange, loud, shrieking noises, and it ends on a shot of a well. After watching, she receives a phone call that emits that same loud screech from the tape. Raiko, now convinced she is cursed, asks her psychic ex-husband, Ryuji, for help. He watches the tape, and they find a message spoken in a Oshima dialect and decide to visit Oshima. Before leaving, they find their son watching the tape, and he claims Tomoko told him to do it. In Oshima, the two learn about Shizuko Yamamura, who became known for a public display of her psychic abilities before she committed suicide. This display was arranged by Dr. Ikuma, who was researching ESP by doing experiments with her. The two speak with Takashi, who is Shizuko's brother, and Ryuji has a vision that Shizuko's daughter, Sadako, killed a journalist with her psychic powers. The two look for, but cannot find Sadako. Raiko realizes Ryuji never got a phone call after he watched the tape. They end up going back to the cabin and investigate. Through another vision, they discover a well in the crawl space and see that Dr. Ikuma bludgeoned Sadako and threw her down the well. The two deduced that Sadako remained alive in the well, and the curse was born when a videotape recorded the rage she had projected. They end up draining the water out of the well. They find Sadako's remains. Raiko passes her 7 days without dying, and they believe the curse is broken. The next day, Ryuji finds his TV on with a static image of the well. Sadako crawls out of the well and out of the TV, scaring Ryuji to death. Raiko realizes the actual way to survive the curse is to make a copy of the tape and to show it to somebody, thus perpetuating the curse. She did that, but Ryuji never did. Now fearing for the life of her son, she grabs a copy of the tape and drives towards her father's house to let him watch it and save her son. Roll credits! Killing the pronunciation game tonight.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
my girl Sudoku.
I made a joke
My
about
girl
that
side
and then
duck.
just fucking did it. Unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
I think there's a lot of really positives going for this movie, obviously, which is why it's so fucking successful. I really like the idea of like just a cursed object in general, and it does sort of like date this movie that it's a VHS tape that you have to watch. That obviously, like very few people still watch VHS tapes today, but I like that dated aspect of it in a way because it puts you in a very clear like moment in time, and it's not like when you watch this movie, even if you're a kid, you can be like, holy shit, like that's mind blowing. Like you don't have to own like a Vitrola to understand how a Vitrola works. I think it's sort of like puts you like in a very specific moment in time, and it just sort of adds to like the creepy lure that's happening in this sort of outdated form of technology. And I really like I mean, I'm a physical media nerd, but I really like that it's this haunted fucking tape. I think it's cool.
It is cool. And but one thing to note is that like that aesthetic is huge right now. Analog horror is a thing, and it's largely built on the back of VHS aesthetics. So I mean, this is obvious. The difference being that this is clearly like specifically like it's appropriate for the time of this film. So that's kind of the key difference, but it's still like playing with that sort of like staticky digital, not quite digital effect thing going on. Like I think this might have been the first movie to really try that, like as far as I know, and that's noteworthy entirely on its own, in my opinion. Is there a Skinamarink without this movie? Who knows?
Yeah, and this movie is so the fear of it, the datedness, so it creates kind of a positive in my mind and also a negative. And the negative sense is that like, yeah, it's very dated and it's kind of set to this time because even the technology, if I somehow got a VHS that was even important to me and I wanted to watch it, it would be really difficult for me to watch it because, like, so the idea that this curse lives in this tape, but that also kind of creates this positive in a way too, because it's almost like this dormant curse that could be unleashed again, which I was thinking in my mind, if they wanted to make one these days, they still kind of could with that aspect of, I mean, we still get VHS movies, like the anthologies that are based on that idea and stuff. And so, they could bring this back.
You could have some horror VHS nerd crawling through the bins at a Goodwill, and he pulls this unmarked tape out. And he's like, I gotta find out what's on this. It's probably a weird homemade porn.
You're even doing the Plinkett voice.
And then I wasn't trying. And then he gets sadly disappointed when he's cursed to fucking die in 7 days and gets called on his AT&T iPhone 15 or whatever the fuck.
So that's the thing too. I wanted to kind of mention that because when this was released and watching The Ring from 2002, one of the things that I don't know how people feel about it now, but one of the things about that is, you watch the tape and then there's this ring, which is a very common, or for the time was a very common landline phone sound. So it was something that you would hear in your real daily life. And so that would like kind of have an effect. But like today, that sound doesn't mean anything. I mean, people know it's a phone. I'm not saying people don't know what a phone sounds like. I'm just saying it's
becoming anachronistic. Yeah.
Well, there was a high probability that you could be watching this film in your home in 2003 on a VHS, and that your phone could ring, in your house with that same exact sound. That's not going to happen now. So I think some of that element is kind of lost to time.
So
and
you think
culture.
It would make it generally less scary to modern audiences because of that difficulty to relate?
Yeah, I think it would have a different, I don't know about scariness, but a different effect because, it's kind of the same idea of, in some way, the Blair Witch of, the possibility of finding something and be like, is this real? Because back in the day, you could just record tapes and I really love the urban legend aspect of this, where she's just interviewing all these high school kids and they're talking about and they're passing this around, because you can think back to like fucking chain letters, if you don't pass this chain letter on, you're gonna
That's essentially what
die.
the ring is.
Yeah, and it's cool. That aspect is like really cool, and something that they kind of leave out of the Ring 2002 that I'm glad they explore more, where they're actually interviewing kids from different schools and like all over the city that like know about it. It's just like this whisper, and I love that aspect of it. It's so cool.
Me too. It's the perfect. I mean, just like this movie, it's the perfect thing for these girls to talk about at a sleepover or around a campfire. It's a perfect campfire tale. I love that kind of thing too, man. And I get what you're saying. Like, I don't know how scary this would be to a modern audience or to a younger audience. I think they did try to update it in Rings, which is like the most recent American Ring movie, I think. I did not see it, but I think the tape was somehow like translated to YouTube or something like that, and people were watching it online and being cursed that way. I heard it was not particularly great.
Man, there'd be a lot of dead people.
There would be, yeah.
Put that shit on TikTok.
This man. Also, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I'd seen the American remake of this, but like this movie, you get a phone call in the Japanese version for sure, but like there's just noises, right? There is no like specific utterance of like how many days you have to live, correct? And that was invented by like the American version. They just sort of clarify
7 days.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting because like there's a few things like that, and that I had always taken this film to be like, or I'd always taken the American version. My understanding was that it was like basically the same exact fucking movie, and it's pretty close. There's like there are shot for shot recreations, for sure. Things that I remember from that movie that I saw here. The umbrella scene comes to mind. But then you have things like that, and things like the ring itself in the American version. There's an additional layer to the concept of a ring, because the well is covered and it creates a ring shape, and you see the ring before you die was the tagline, I believe.
Yeah.
So they added some stuff that I actually think is pretty cool on its own.
Yeah.
But I'm trying not too much to compare them, because I don't think that's really fair to this movie that existed in a vacuum where nothing like this was out.
Yeah, existed. Yeah. I do think that they made some changes that work, but at the same time they tried to keep some aspects without keeping others that create this kind of disconnect in the 2002 version. And so one aspect I kind of liked in this more, or at least made things kind of like make more cohesive sense, was the father's involvement. Like, it's just her ex-husband, and he does have like some psychic abilities, which then translates to the kid. In the Ring 2002, the kid is just creepy for no reason. Like he's just to no avail too. Like it doesn't do anything. He's just creepy. A weird kid. Yeah. And in this one, I kind of like that. The kid's like pretty normal actually. And And I don't know. I think they lean too hard into like the creepiness factor in The Ring 2002 to give it a mood, but it doesn't really make sense. Where in this one, it would make sense because like we're in from the father passing, something onto his son of like maybe being some kind of seer or psychic or something, which also then translates or kind of helps them in some way relate to the monster as well, because that's kind of the same thing that happened to the little girl with her mother being a seer and like passing it on to her daughter in a way. So there's like a connection there that doesn't exist in The Ring 2002.
Yeah,
I guess that's true. Go ahead, Bob.
That bit, I understand why it's in the story. There's a nice like parallel happening between these families, but that did seem like oddly convenient to me that like this woman would be a reporter on this case who would be married to like someone who is also has like psychic abilities or some sort of a medium. And like it just seemed a little too convenient that they would be on the case and they would be finding out what's happened with this Sadako character and stuff. But I wish they were just a little more just like baseline sleuths and like looking at the microfiche or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that big of a complaint. It's just a little odd.
To me, like that didn't super resonate. I can see your point, but it's just like there was something about this, and this is going to be upsetting to fans of this film. But like I was not super into it overall, and I have a hard time figuring out why that is, because this is a pretty universally loved movie, is my understanding, especially whenever the American version comes up, somebody is quick to trip over their dick and say that this one is so much more superior and all that stuff.
Or vagina.
So I expected a lot from this, and I really don't. Well, sure.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's I kind of was hoping that there would sell home maybe the mother-son relationship a little bit more intricately, like weave that into the story a little bit better. And it was actually not as good, I think, in this one. Like, and I don't think it was very particularly well done in the Naomi Watts version either. I think that they tried, but there's something going on about like absentee mother things happening here, and then like absentee parents in general. Like, I don't know. Like, I wasn't.
Yeah, see, I took it the other way. Mm-hmm. See, I took it the other way, where I feel like The Ring really tries to push this idea of the mother, because I think it's important to compare these two. I don't want to like spend it, but since I just watched them back to back, this is kind of like my take on it. And a little bit, I guess, spoilers for The Ring, but in The Ring, the American version, the mother is the one who kills the daughter, and she's adopted. And there's this whole thing of like, she had all these miscarriages and then she really wanted a child. And so they adopted this girl. We don't know where they got her from. She was evil from the get-go and everything like that. And so like, that's the kind of narrative they're pushing. In this one though, I actually feel like it's consistent, and where I feel like they kind of lost it in translation, where it's not about the mother. I think it's about the absentee and abandoning father aspect of it, because and since we know The Ring so much, we kind of like are more like naturally kind of drawn to look for the mother aspect in it. Maybe. But I think consistently in this one is because again, I think that's why the parallels are important, because the guy that you have this absentee father, like in the main story or whatever, but it also translates that into that in the other one, and kind of like what creates this monster girl. The father is the one who kills the little girl, and she's like kind of this like bastard child who is like kind of, they creep her up, but she's essentially kind of using her powers to defend her mother, and which creates a situation where her mother ends up killing herself because of it, and then the father kills the little girl. And so like there's this, I feel like that's why the connection is more important, because they're drawing the parallels to actually the fathers, and like focusing on the fatherhood.
And you might be right that I am predisposed to want to look for the mother-son relationship. I keep wanting to say mother-daughter, like mother-son relationship, because of my history with the American version that tries that. Mm-hmm. But like, I did notice the father connection as well, and it wasn't like really singing for me. Like, I still don't really maybe they covered this and I just like whiffed it, but what is the true circumstance of him leaving? Like, was it his choice? Did they cover
They
that?
just seemed like
They're just
separated.
estranged.
They
And like
just
he's
seemed,
just not part of her
divorced,
life
yeah.
really, except when she needs this help. And that, like, to me, made it feel like it was like a repeated theme, but it wasn't. I don't know. I didn't feel like it drilled down to the core of it. You know what I mean?
He seemed like a bit of a workaholic. That's kind of all we know about
Yeah.
him.
So does
He's
she.
very focused on his work. That's true. Yeah, which I guess goes back to the absentee just parents in general.
Right.
Yeah, we don't know a whole hell of a lot about the dad, I guess, but he's got some sort of psychic abilities that I guess he passed down some of that to his son. He also, like, when his assistant or that girl that comes in at the beginning, it seemed like he was cruising on her a little bit, or maybe I read into that situation a little more than I
think
should
that's
have.
implied. Yeah.
This
Maybe
guy
he was
definitely
cheating
has
on his
more.
wife.
This guy definitely has more swagger than the Ring version does.
Oh yeah. he doesn't have that fucked up haircut.
Damn.
Well, and I feel like, so this is to criticize, and where I feel like I kind of agree, and I wish that they had leaned into it a little more, is if they're going to, I wasn't like a huge fan either of the kind of psychic ability and the supernatural element in here. I kind of was also craving more of the, like, you know, just do the dirty work and investigate and get these clues and like Scooby-Doo it, you know?
Yeah.
But where I feel like if they wanted to hammer that home a little more, they could have done it from an aspect of the passing it on itself, of like, would they negatively feed off of each other? Like, was he distancing himself because he didn't want to bring that out in his son? Or would it negatively affect him? Because they were talking about the mother and how she, like, was also a psychic and would just like stand out by the sea, and like she wasn't like completely okay. And if they had fed into that aspect of, like, you know, when you encourage these aspects in offspring, or like it could have some kind of negative effect, it could twist it in some way or negatively affect you if you're like, you know, if you put two speakers too close together and they create the feedback noise. I feel like they could have, you know, built on that aspect and given it some kind of resonance to explain a little bit more of why this girl is so fucking bad or crazy or something. If her mother tried to nurture those things, or the doctor was trying to exploit it, you know, like he's like using the mother and the daughter and like pushing them together so that it creates that, and then this negative effect comes about. I feel like that would have benefited this, maybe.
I feel like they're like pointing at these two things and saying they're similar, or they're, at least they have these things that are so similar, but you can't like directly compare them. Like they defy that somehow. And it's not even just it's the parents in general, like, but both on the everything to do with the kid seems kind of like malnourished a little bit in this movie. Like, it seems like it's just not quite making the resonance with the whatever, the Ring Girls story. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't quite sell that home for me. And so it feels like it's pantomiming depth without actually getting deep.
Yeah. I think it's primarily there just to up the ante, because when you see the kid watch it, you're like, oh my God, now this innocent child is on the line. And I think that it works in that way, but there's, to your point, not a lot of depth. It starts to feel like there's this, you know, this broken home where this curse started, and that curse then it bleeds into this other family and like further breaks their home, but they're like already separated in a way. So like, that's not like the cleanest metaphor, but I don't know, something along those lines, I guess. You know, these people grow up in difficult, you know, homes, or they have difficult parents that are self-centered or very into their work or whatever, and then that leads into them growing up and having their own family and displaying those exact same issues, and the curse spreads on from there. Something like that. I don't know. It's not very clear, though.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right, though, that it serves the purpose of, like, it creates stakes, which is desperately needed, of course, and they do a good job with that aspect of it. The thing it doesn't do is, like, reflect on why those stakes are being depicted in relation to the broader story. So it's kind of like, it does part of the job. It just doesn't go all the way for me. But like as far as the look of it and everything else, like I think this looks pretty great for a film made in 1998. What did you guys think about that? Like the effects, like the CGI aged really poorly in the 2002.
Oh
version.
man, did it
Really poorly.
and the color grading. Oh
yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, the bluest
Jesus
fucking
Christ.
movie.
Something I'd noticed about not just this movie, but some other Japanese horror movies that came out in the 90s and the early 2000s. They are just beautiful. They look incredibly good. They've got this really like nice grain. They feel like very tangible. And they typically have a more muted color palette, whereas you look at stuff from the 90s in the States and it's like a lot of times can be like very orangey or have a lot of brightness to it.
Oversaturated, yeah.
Yeah, but these are a little more muted and it not to the point where like it's blue, but like just generally muted in a way that's very artistic and it looks fucking great. I agree though. I think this movie looks fantastic. Pulse is another one that looks great. Ju-on, the original Grudge, is one that holds up pretty well. There's several, but yeah, they look great. I agree with you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
I was going to jump off to another topic.
Please do. Go on.
The one thing that I think it looks good, but I don't think there's enough happening in the actual VHS footage that they watch. It's not quite as like visually engaging, and I primarily say that I'm sure because I saw the remake first, and that shit is kind of bonkers and probably too nuts.
They go ham on that.
Yeah. There's some great set pieces that they make on there, even if the CGI doesn't hold up. Like I always remember the fly thing and that, and they just don't have that here. It's almost like a little bit more believable though. So like on some like the guys with towels on their heads pointing, like that sort of shit, like it seems dumb, and like the first time I saw it I was like, oh okay, whatever, but like I don't know, there's like they kept showing like bits or whatever, and that was one of them. I was like, this is actually like maybe more creepy than a lot of the shit in the 2002 version, because it's like it feels truly like found footage and not like CGI with analog glitches effects over it, which is a lot of what happens in that.
Yeah, that's fair. I think too I think for us the 2002 one is pretty iconic in a lot of ways too, because of when we saw it, like age and influence and horror and stuff like that. And so it is kind of hard to go to this one. I also think that aspect plays into the investigation, where they focus more on the investigation that way, because it's got more clues in it of like, oh, I've seen that tree before. I know where to go now. And and we're looking for the lighthouse. It takes me there. So they kind of needed to include more things for them to pull apart in that one. I think this one is solid. It's hard to say, like, since it's just more content too. Yeah, there is a lot more in the 2002 one. But I will say, since this is the one to do it, when I was covering The Ring, I like praised this aspect of it. The setup of the end is fucking fantastic, and how it's kind of like expertly set up throughout the movie, where the mom watches it, the dad watches it, the kid watches it, and then the mom thinks she's safe, and had like the dad not died, it would have been the kid, but then that creates this, like it's fucking smart as shit, because it gives you just enough emotional ties to be like, the dad is like kind of there, and he's obviously like looking out for them. We don't know like why they're estranged, but he's not like a complete piece of shit, like he's helping, he's doing things. And so there is like this sort of attachment, but it's enough detachment to where like when he's the one that dies, it's shocking because you get the kill, but also you feel this like, oh, well, the kid can be saved. It's just emotionally, it's like set up so brilliantly. And like, I just wanted to praise that because I think it's really smart.
I agree. And there's like also this thing where, and I'm going to rip this wholesale from a YouTuber that I watched talk about this. So apologies. I wish I remember your name. But they said something along the lines of like the way that this builds up to the first half hour of this film up to the point of her watching the film is actually pretty brilliant, even though like you said that it's a little convenient, all that stuff. But if you like not even paying attention to the seer aspect or anything, you have this woman who's a career journalist, and she's doing a story on this urban legend that kids are passing around. And then she hears about an event and she looks it up, and all of a sudden, oh, this is a real thing to some extent. At least it's based on something real. And then it happens to her niece and it becomes personal. And then she starts really digging in, using those investigation skills all the way to the point where she makes the unimpeachably dumb move of watching the tape that she thinks kills people. So like, I don't know. But your curiosity is so big at that point. I just think that ramp up is really, really nice, I think. And it was really put better by that YouTuber. And I'm sorry that I'm forgetting your name.
Yeah. And one aspect that I like, going back to the idea that they treat this more like an urban legend, something that they don't really spend time with in the other one is the other kids. So at least in this one, the niece does die, and we get that scene of, her in the closet and the mom finding the body and stuff like that. But you also get the scene of, the other kids in the car and stuff and they kind of flesh that out a little bit more. And since I love the urban legend like aspect of it, and like, in the remake, they're just like, yeah, and these other kids died too. And it's just like this kind of loner weirdo sitting in the corner, kind of spewing out the story. And it's just like less tactfully done. And I like the way it's handled more in here, where it kind of like takes its time with that aspect of this tape or whatever. Yeah, it's better in that way for me.
Yeah, I think the ending of this movie really does pay off. I think the effects hold up too. When she crawls out of the TV, it still really works. And the like close-up shot of her having no fingernails left, and just the way she moves is really like visceral and effective. And I can imagine back in 98, like nobody for half a second thought that girl was crawling out of the TV. So like when it happened, I'm sure it was like, the first time we watched the ending of Saw or some shit. Like the thought never crossed your mind. You're like, holy shit. I think when they're actually in the well and they find Sadako's body, her remains, and like the flesh is so waterlogged it falls off the skeleton, and like the eyes are just jelly.
That was great.
Holy shit. That is
it was just a little bit cheesy, as it's like just kind of rips right down the middle.
It's kind of Goonies a little bit, but I really like
the
that.
goo where the eyes were, that sold it for me. I was really into that.
I really love that visual. I was also a little confused as to why they thought they needed to get all the water out of the well. If it was shallow enough for them to like stand waist high in it, just like dig around in there, you'll probably, it's not a big well. You probably find what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's is true. Kind of a weird aspect of it. And because she's staying, you'd think you'd be able to just like, kind of get in there a little bit.
They're on a time limit too. And they also end up just not getting all the water out anyways and digging around, and she floats to the surface. Like, I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
It seems like a strange
It kind of adds a little bit of tension, because at one point she just like gets too tired and he's like, come on, like the time's coming.
And that's what gets her down there, is because otherwise he's going to do the chivalrous thing and be down there. So I guess maybe that's a means to an end, but it doesn't hold up great. I also wanted, since we're on the subject of potential like plot issues, like there was something about, so like there are all these stories about kids who have watched this tape and then died, right? We start with that. That's the trail of breadcrumbs we follow. But also the tape, the tape exists right above the well in this cabin that was built over the well. And at this place, the guy at the front counter has never seen it before until that. He's like, oh yeah, somebody must have left it or whatever. And like, it just seems like, how did this tape ever get seen by anybody before
circulated?
Like before the chain of custody of this thing seems pretty short. I
think that's I do think that is a negative, because it's the aspect of the fact that it's right over the well is the problem, because like if it had ended up there, in some way, then
and that's true in this. They did that in the remake too, right?
No, it's the same thing. And like when I covered it on A Cut Above, I kind of like picked that apart because the whole idea is like, oh, copy it and you live. Like I kind of want to like spread, but at the same time, it's like, well, you already created it. If you wanted more, the assumption is like you created the tape, but also too, like in the 2002 version, the aspect of it was she had to use a professional equipment to figure the shit out that like pretty much everybody would die. So like if it was like the It Follows creature where it's like it fucks you till you die, but it wants to be
till you die.
It wants to be passed on. It would never get passed on. It would just lay dormant forever. And so that's kind of like a problem here is the motivations are kind of unclear. Do you want to spread or do you just want to cause pain?
See, I think that's true. I think that having like the idea of her wanting it to spread because she wants to inflict pain on people through the spreading of it. I think that's perfectly fine. It's either you die for the amusement of this evil person or you pass along the message so that more people die. I think that's fine. I just don't like you said, the real issue for me is like the source of this tape, how it exists right near its source theoretically. And then it doesn't seem like it could have possibly ended up in the hands of these other kids that died. It just, to me, that feels like just a kind of a plot hole. If she did create other tapes, maybe we could have talked about that. Maybe maybe it's a copy of a copy. Maybe it's already a copy. We don't really know. And I don't know, man. It's just a little strange.
Well, that could be an aspect. And I'm sorry, I should have done more research on this beforehand because it was on my mind. But like, so I'm not exactly sure the like folk tale beats of it, but in this one, the girl is more of a traditional like Asian type of ghost. So there is like that specific type of ghost that exists in like Asian lore of the kind of like young girl or maiden virgin or whatever that dies at a young age and then they're covered in the white and the pale skin and the long black hair that covers their face. And they're just like a vengeful spirit because they died before their time. And so if that were that, if I knew more about that,
I have a little bit of trivia on that. So yeah, Sadako is based on the legendary Japanese ghost of the Onryo, Onryo, however you say that.
Okay.
It's usually a female. It's a ghost that manifests after dying in the grip of a powerful rage and materializes as a very physical spirit to seek vengeance on the living. And then The Grudge was also inspired by the very similar thing. There's also like just some other like general information about like Japanese ghosts. There's also like something called a yori, which are just a common figure in Japanese folklore. It's sort of like a more generalized version of like a Japanese ghost. And it's got the name consists of like two what are called kanji. Yu meaning faint or dim, and then ri meaning soul or spirit. And there's another name, Shiryo or Obaki. There's like various different names, but Obaki. That's some information for you from someone who doesn't know shit about it.
Well, so that would make more sense just as like a vengeful spirit type of thing. And it could even like be helpful in tying into like it first being like young, like the teenagers at first or something like that. But I still don't know like too much deeply about it, like who they attack or who they're going after. But that kind of like clears up the idea of just like a vengeful spirit in general,
Yeah, a young female vengeful spirit. It's gonna fuck you up.
Fuck you up.
That's what you need to know. Any other major points you guys want to touch on before we rate this movie?
No, man.
No.
All right. Let's go ahead and do it then. Out of 5, Juice, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel about Ring?
Yeah, so I kind of missed the conversation a little bit. One thing that I think this film does look beautiful. And as I was watching, I was like, it's got this, I know it's only from the 90s, but it's got this timeless kind of look. It feels even older to me than that, just based on the look of it. Like if I was just shown like a clip or something, I had no like them going to the island or something. And just like the color palette would be like, oh, I think this is older, but it's got this timeless look to me. I think it's very beautiful as well. And one thing that I really liked after watching the 2002 version, that it's fucking teal as shit. Oh my God. So as a, like from a time frame wise, it holds up a lot better. As I said before, the positives are, I actually think this ending holds up better too. I do like the aspect of the no fingernails. It's a lot more gritty because they're not using that like glitchy VHS CGI. I don't think the remake one holds up that great because of the effects. I love the setup of the ending. I think that that's very brilliant. I like the characters. I feel like, they were kind of fun to follow. And I like that in this one, the guy and the woman like stay together. They don't separate themselves. And I like kind of their dynamic where at one point, you know, even I like where she has to say like, I'm his wife or whatever. There's like a little bit of like kind of relationship still there. And she doesn't seem like bitter or resentful towards him. And it adds this kind of like curious, like mystery tension between them that I think works really well. I think my biggest thing that I don't like about this is I'm kind of like y'all where I want it to be more Scooby-Doo-esque, and the kind of like info dump of this guy just grabs this other guy by the arm, and then the woman kind of gets close enough to be pulled into this bubble where then you see this like black and white flashback to get all of your information. It's like, that's kind of weird. And it's a small portion of the film, like visual wise, but it feels like it should be this huge chunk of the film of like what's actually going on. And the way they choose to present that feels like, yeah, kind of weak, or just like not, it doesn't feel satisfactory, you know, to me. So I agree with that aspect. And I think that's probably the weakest part of the film. Overall, though, I really did like watching this film, and I really did kind of get into it. It was a little weird because it's so similar. But since I watched this one first and I hadn't seen The Ring in like several years, I was really enjoying it. And I like the aspect too of just seeing what Japan looked like in the 90s. I think it's fun to see other places like retro version. You know, I know what the United States looks like in the 90s. If I saw a film based in the 90s, like I'm going to recognize that. It's just cool to kind of like go into that space and time with a different culture. So I like that aesthetic, and just the Japanese aesthetic works a lot better for me anyways than 2002 Seattle. So I like this film. I think it mostly holds up. I think there's that middle section is like the biggest kind of like sinking part of it. But overall, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5 from Soju. Wow.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Bob, out of 5, what you giving Ring?
Yeah, I think we touched on most everything. I really, I just dig the overall like lore that's happening in this movie, and it's just so damn iconic. I remember like when the American remake came out, like every motherfucker on the street was just whispering like 7 days. Anytime anybody picked up the phone, your dumbass friend across the room would be like 7 days. Oh, behave. I don't know. I love how like baked into just like pop culture that was at the time. I think most of the effects in this really do hold up. The ending pays off very well. The idea of like a cursed videotape is super awesome. And that sort of like more modern cursed object idea was carried on with a lot of other movies that were just, you know, trying to cash in on the success of Ring. And it led to like some other really interesting ideas, like cursed websites and stuff like that, cursed cameras. And some of those like really worked. Some of them did not. But a lot of that was just due to the success of this film. I like the flashback scene because I think like what we see is kind of effective and heartbreaking. But like you said, Juice, I don't like the way we get that information overall. It's just way too convenient. And it feels like just a massive shortcut. They were like, they need to know this information, so we'll just fucking here it is. The ending when the typhoon like rolls in and they take that boat trip out to the island, it's like very atmospheric and ominous, and I fucking really like that scene when they're on the boat. I like rolling into like God knows what they're gonna find at that island. I really like that. It builds some nice tension. The actual VHS footage it doesn't really. I don't find it spooky, really. I kind of wish they jazzed it up a little bit. There's also like a handful of pretty goofy like freeze frame shots of like whenever somebody dies, one of the kids dies, it sort of like freeze frames on their face and like does this weird transitional kind of fade overlay thing. I didn't really like that. And the thing that bothered me the most is like when they're just one bucket at a time taking all the water out of that well. And I was like, why on earth is this happening? I can't understand it. These characters would not do this. They just wouldn't do it. It doesn't make any sense to do it. That really bothered me. But overall, you don't
understand Japanese culture, Bob.
Also, like
one bucket at a time. That's an old Japanese proverb. You know,
you could. I mean, why are you inside the well and still like loading this bucket up with water? Like you can just do it from the top or just crawl in and find the girl. Like why? I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I was like, people get water out of wells every day without crawling down them. Like, you can make it happen. Overall, I do enjoy this movie though. It's some of it is maybe a little bit dated, but most of it holds up pretty well. I think it's totally worth watching. So I'm going to come in with a 3 out of 5 for Ring. Randu, how do you feel?
So going into this, I had 2 major roadblocks for myself. The first is what we've already talked about, which is I have just kind of committed to the 2002 Ring to memory at this point. I know it so well. It was a formative part of me becoming and getting into horror movies. So I didn't want that to impact my viewing so much, but the comparisons are just impossible to avoid. So that was one thing. The other thing was, honestly, like, and maybe I was just a little tired or something. I feel like I had a little bit of a bad beer scenario, as coined by Bob.
That will happen.
Having a bad beer and then giving a bad rating. So I'm going to proactively course correct that a little bit and try and like try and grade on a curve because of that. That said, the things I liked about this movie were I like the idea of a cursed object, like Rob said. I like I love any movie that takes not any movie, but I love a movie that capably takes modern technology and makes it spooky in some way. And that it's hard to do, but when it does work, it works. And I think that horror movies have tried to do that forever and ever, like haunted books, haunted film reels, whatever, like haunted satellite TVs, whatever, haunted health spas. Like they all exist. All those movies exist. So haunted this one does really well with that. And it also, despite being clearly and very firmly dated in its from when it was made, it does not feel that way somehow. It still feels accessible as a modern viewer. So those are some good things. Oh, also the audio mixing. We didn't talk about that at all, but the audio mixing in this is really great. They do a lot of like they avoid a lot of like stinger jump scare moments that they could have gone into, that they could have used, instead just allowing something spooky to happen and allowing our character to react to it in silence. The mixing on all that stuff sounds really good. On all the tape itself sounds really good, even though I think the tape is kind of short as well. I think overall the visuals end up looking really great. And yeah, I think it's got a good ramp up and a nice ramp down for its story. That's where the positives kind of end for me, though, I think. And like, I didn't really see a whole lot of interest. I didn't have any interest into why this couple is split up, except in how it relates to the lore. I feel like this story is like a parable without a lesson. Like, it seems like it's trying to be a parable of like that teaches you something about like, this is why, you need to be around your kids more, or this is why you need to make amends with your husband or wife or whatever, but it doesn't really make a statement. This is just why kind of seems like it's trying to.
This is why you don't watch the unmarked VHS tapes in your parents' collection.
Yeah, that's the real story. Oh yeah, you don't want to get involved in any of that.
Hot tub Christianity.
So there's that. There's also like there's just too much spoken exposition in this film. I think that a lot of the problems that you guys are talking about with like showing how the lore is set up and how like Sadako like was, you know, came into the world or whatever, all that stuff that's done in black and white. I don't mind the visual aspects of it. It's that it's spoken over, and it's like the dad character is just doing nothing but explaining what's going on all the time. And they are showing at the same time, but it feels like story time with pictures, not a film in those moments. So yeah, and somehow with all that exposition that's in this, there's still somehow plot holes. So I feel like that's kind of weak in this. I didn't like when there was one shot in particular that this what I'm about to describe happened that really made me averse to it, which is when she actually sees the tape, she's talking to the guy, and then it just zooms in and cuts real close to it and goes to white noise fuzz effect and all this stuff, and has this like loud sound like or whatever it is, and it's like calling out that there's a blank tape. I don't think you fucking need that, man. I think that's just like they do that a few times where I'm just like, this seems like too much. I think they're trying to like imply that she's like, I don't know, I guess she's having some sort of psychic, like psychically noticing this other psychically relevant object or something, but you don't need that. I think it was handled better in the remake, honestly, that particular moment. And they do that kind of thing a few times. And there's really just overall, the main thing for me is that there's just not enough reason for the main characters and their child to connect with the lore. So that's my big crux with this thing. I'm going to come in at a 3.25. Yeah, I think that's about right for me.
3 1/4 from your boy Randeezy. That's going to put our aggregate at a 3.4. Not too bad for Ring.
Yeah.
All right.
68% D+.
For this classic,
just one more percent. How do we get that average up 1%?
I don't know if we brought up that this is like one of our classic episodes or whatever. Did we say that?
Yeah, I mentioned it at the very top briefly, but yeah,
Okay.
we had to record a couple episodes in advance, so we chose a couple classic movies to talk about, and that's why we're talking about this. Also, this is Ring's 25th anniversary and The Ring's 20th, I believe. 98, 2002?
No, 2002, 21st.
Okay, so last year was the 20th.
That fucking movie can drink. That's crazy. I don't like that at all.
If you were born the same year The Ring came out, you can drink.
This movie's fucking wasted, bro.
Oh,
Damn,
God.
yeah, that's weird.
Okay,
That means y'all are getting old.
Yeah, totally. Let's jump over into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Ring.
Certified fresh. Yeah.
All right, kiddies. This is the Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to have these two gentlemen guess within the best of their abilities what the critics and users' aggregate positive scores are on RottenTomatoes.com for The Ring. The Ring 98, I should say. We're going to start with the critics' review as we always do. 42 of them exist, so we're going off of 42 critic reviews here.
That's low.
Bob, we'll start with you tonight. Where do you think those 42 reviews land?
Ooh, I think it's gonna be positive. I don't know. It's hard to gauge how high though. How positive? I'm
always saying it's really hard to gauge how high.
I'll go with a 76, please.
Oh, bringing some America to the party, I see.
You know it.
Juice, where are you going to come at with this one?
Bob, I think that's too low. One, this is a foreign film, and a foreign film that's considered a classic. And that white man's guilt is going to kick in and drive
white man's guilt.
this
My favorite
this
mayonnaise
score up
brand.
high,
White man's
high,
guilt.
high. I'm going to play it safe. I think it's going to be higher than this, but I'm going to play it safe and take my boys 86. The Project
86. I see. Well, one of you is more right than the other. That is true, but you're both more than 10 off.
Damn.
This is 98% putting Juice right in the driver's seat. 98%.
That white man's guilt.
No, white man's guilt is strong.
Foreign films get just natural huge bump on Rotten Tomatoes generally for the like 90% of the time, unless they're just complete dog shit.
Well, damn.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I guess that this one ain't that.
That's real high.
Let's go with the let's go to the audience score. We're gonna go start with you, Juice. There are over 25,000 audience ratings for this film. What do you think the aggregate positive score is?
This is gonna drop. It's not gonna be 98% with that many, but I still think it's gonna be high. Yeah, I'll take 90%.
90 percentile. Bob, what about you?
Ooh, 90%. I'm gonna go with fucking 92.
Damn.
I'm good. You just suddenly you suddenly became drunk. I don't know how that happened.
I don't know.
I'm good. Sick of fucking 92. Well, let's do a little quick math in there. Oh, well, no, none needed, actually. Juice is going to sweep it this week. 81%. 81%.
Sweeping that. Hell yeah, sweet.
The audience is a little more tempered
Japan,
on this
or
one.
do I know Japan?
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that I'm wrong?
Grow up, bro. Only Japanese critics and fans rated this, apparently, because Justin knows the Japanese. Knows them.
Justin's a great asset to us because he both brings the woman's perspective and the Japanese perspective and the youth perspective. Really, there's no perspective left to go around.
Except the old perspective.
As the white
the old piece of shit white boy from Florida perspective. We'll take care of that.
Y'all can have that one.
Old crusty
thanks,
white
man.
bread. Got it.
Gotta lean into what you know, right?
Oh yeah.
Critics' consensus reads as follows: Ringu combines supernatural elements with anxieties about modern technology in a truly frightening and unnerving way. I guess that's true, actually. Like, I didn't really consider that, but like, if we are thinking of it in terms of like then modern technology and the fears people have around that stuff, there's something to be said about that because. You know, what if your kid sees a fucked up tape and it causes him to be fucked up?
Like his parents fucking.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Don't watch the unmarked tape, boy.
Don't touch that dial. You need to hear this.
That's mommy daddy tape.
I don't know. That's a whole level that I didn't actually tap and touch at all. I didn't even really think about because I guess I was distracted by the lore of this being so focused on parental figures and that sort of thing. But I don't know. There is something to that. And I don't think it's that strong necessarily, but it's there.
A little bit of hole that I see kind of in that. I mean, it's there, but the way that they kind of shoot that one scene of a flashback, it makes it feel a lot more retro. Like a lot of, she says she would be in her 40s by now. And so it makes it seem like it was a lot. They didn't have VHSs back then.
Well, it's a flashback.
That's a good point.
They just like,
but she knows there's a VHS player up above her well, and she's like, "I'm gonna make a tape." Boop boop boop.
She died.
I see what you're saying.
She said the little girl would be in her 40s by now, which means that she was killed like 30 years ago when there was not such thing as a VHS tape.
I got you. So, yeah, that's fair. I don't know, man.
So she waited for cabins to be built and VHS players to be invented in order to make this tape.
I swear I'm not gonna keep drudging up the fucking Naomi Watts bullshit. But one thing that I liked about that was they set up, even though it doesn't make any more sense than what we get here, really, but they set up that Samara is able to create basically x-rays of images, what's in her head, images. Somehow she's able to produce like x-ray looking images, which is more or less film negatives. And so
that's true. But she also like projects images into people's heads. She's like a fucking X-Men.
So I don't know if she's able to like just impact photosensitive shit poor people's brains. That's just what she's just good at that.
She's
very
just AI creating, just this imagery.
She's
whatever
like
you want to see.
She's the spooky chat GPT.
Oh yeah, man. I want to be on that server. All right. I'm going to read some negative reviews. There's only one negative review in this batch. I'm going to read it from the critics, I should say. Okay. And then I'm going to find one from the users because I want it to be funny, if possible. We'll see. So from the critics, the one negative review clip reads, bog standard horror offering with a distinct lack of action or plot. I don't really agree with any of that.
Standard?
If it was bog standard, it wouldn't exactly crack open the fucking floodgates for a decade of films like this. I don't
grow up, bro.
Bro, grow up.
You're gonna look at me and you're gonna tell me that I'm wrong?
That sounds like me.
It is a recording of you when we were arguing about my Blu-ray collection.
Oh, yeah.
Famously.
These are $5, Bob. This box set that's got 12 movies in it. It's $5.
Grow up, bro.
You screamed at this man on Christmas about his Blu-rays.
On Christmas.
On Christmas time. Same diff.
Christmas morning.
If you can watch Santa's Sleigh, it's Christmas.
This man tried to tell me this box set with 10 movies in it is average value of $5.
A dude gets gift cards.
All right, I'm looking for one more negative review from the users. Let's see. One of them just says, they're not that fucking funny. I hate this. Be funnier. Be less professional like us. Here's one. It's not even a 1-star review. It just says, nah, not that scary. And then like a flat eyes emoticon, like just like meh, like a flat mouth.
I could take her, bro.
Jabba the Hutt face going on.
I could take her. She's just a little girl. I'm not.
Send her to bed without supper. All right.
She doesn't even have fingernails. She can't even scratch you. Grow up, bro.
Oh, that is something I did want to point out, that also the effect. I mean, I did say that I like the ending, but the effectiveness of like her, like the look or whatever is a lot better than I was watching the 2002 version. That little girl's just too cute to me.
Well, like even like the end where she's corpse girl and she's just like, and it shows like her whole face. Even when I first watched that movie, that part stuck with me as being really bad looking. Yeah. And now it's just worse.
So that one definitely was more creepy with like the fucked up eye and shit. Yeah.
That was great. They showed less and we got more. It was great. Yeah. That's the end of Rotten Tomatoes, Bob. Move us along. Come on.
Yo, we got some trivia. Let's talk about it.
It's totally time for trivia.
All right there, boys. On the back of the 2001 UK DVD, there was a disclaimer stating that the distributor accepts no responsibility for any injuries or fatalities that may occur during or after the viewing of this video cassette. I like it.
Wow. I
need to just start putting that disclaimer on all our episodes. We are not responsible for anything.
We're not responsible for how you react to this in any conceivable way or fashion. Thank you. Goodbye.
The character,
we take no responsibility for our actions. I have that disclaimer on my shirt at all times. I take no responsibility for myself.
Just deal with it. The character of Shizuko is based on a real person, Chisuko Mifune. I know I mispronounced that. Who was born in 1886.
Perfect. Had a little French in there.
You know it. And was rumored to have the gift of foresight. After a demonstration in 1910, she was proclaimed a charlatan and committed suicide a year later by ingesting poison, which is really sad. That is a bummer.
Damn.
Yeesh. Well, all right.
There you go.
This is the fun trivia.
I want to be friends with them. I wouldn't be like, kill yourself.
You want to be a psychic friend?
Like, hey, why don't we go play the
I got a toll-free number for you.
Let's make a shitload of money really easily.
Yeah. Let's play the slots.
At the time of this film's release, it was the highest grossing Japanese horror movie in history, which I fucking believe that. Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a big crossover hit. Like, it would have to break some records in order to get to that level. I feel like, unless it was like the cultiest cult film of all time and just like made its way over time. But clearly, it was an immediate success here too.
Yeah.
So this this bit of trivia is going to shed a little bit of light on what we were just talking about on like the whole X-ray imaging and creation of the videotape. So Sadako's psychic abilities are known. There's a name for what she has. It's called Nensha, Nensha. It's a form of something called spirit photography, which enables someone to burn images from their mind onto any solid surface just by thinking about them, which is why anybody close to her can suffer nightmares and bad visions, and that's also how she burned the images onto the videotape.
Okay, that's cool.
There you go. I didn't know that was an established
So
thing.
that's actually
cool.
a cooler thing. I didn't think about, you think about making this tape, but just burning images onto blank film. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it that way. I don't know why.
Yeah, it was just in the vicinity of the well, I guess, and she just fucking, projected her thoughts.
Okay, I'm just gonna pop this. I'm gonna pop this little tape I made. My little student film.
She
on
didn't
there.
actually make the tape. She burned the images onto a blank tape, which would explain why it's close to the well and not just like spreading out in the world. Yeah. Okay,
it would.
Okay.
If she had tracked it back to the well, though, I still think that's stronger. And the guy that says, "Oh yeah, this blank tape, some lady stole it," or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Or if she found it in the niece's room or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it had like the address of the cabin on there or something.
So yeah, something like that.
Shit like that.
Okay.
It could have been buttoned up, but it's still it does add some credence to that for sure.
Yeah. I like that though.
Yeah, that is really interesting and adds a lot of it clarifies kind of a lot of shit. So and you learn a little bit. I'd never heard of that before. It's pretty cool.
I love learning.
Learning is tight. The
learning helps us play.
The budget of this was $1.2 million, and the vast majority of that was provided by the director Hideo Nakata himself. He bankrolled this shit.
Damn. Good for him. I hope he made bank.
Yeah,
he did.
I'm sure he did. He went on to direct The Ring 2 in 2005 as well. Which is the sequel to the movie's American remake, that is. So
okay.
I don't know if I've seen that. I don't remember. He also directed another movie based on Koji Suzuki's literary work. So this was based on a book. The other movie he directed is called Dark Water from 2002, which
shit, yeah,
definitely has a similar vibe to this.
Never seen it.
It's pretty good.
That's a big one.
Worth checking out.
I know I've seen it around. It's
I didn't realize that he made that as well. Okay. Huh.
Mm-hmm. At the time of Ring's release, South Korea had a ban on Japanese cultural imports, so it couldn't be released there. So the Japanese production company behind Ring teamed up with a Korean production company to make a Korean version of that film for their market, and it was known as The Ring Virus and was released in 1999. That's super interesting to me. I'd kind of like to watch that and see if there's any differences.
I kind of want to watch it now too.
Yeah. Pretty wild.
I wonder if that's also what kind of happened. Now, I think it's like a reverse thing, but the curse of the Katakuris or whatever, that was based on a South Korean film.
Oh.
And it was adapted. So maybe similar kind of thing going on there.
Yeah, maybe so.
Huh.
It's good to know that xenophobia can have its upsides.
Its benefits, yeah. For horror nerds to watch the same movie two different ways.
And
I mean, we got The Ring here, so I don't know.
Three different ways.
Yeah. We're not doing anything different.
Huh, yeah. I might see if I can pull that up. That's interesting.
Here's just kind of a rundown of all the sequels and remakes and bullshit. There's quite a bit. So the original sequel was called Spiral, and it was released in 98. It had a poor reception. A new sequel just called Ring 2 was released in 1999, which continued the storyline of this movie. It was then followed by a 2000 prequel called Ring Zero Birthday, which then was followed by...
It is?
Birthday.
Sounds terrible.
Congratulations.
And that was followed by Sadako, which was released in 2019. Spiral, in turn, was followed by Sadako 3D in 2012 and Sadako 3D2 in 2013. Another installment, Sadako DX, was released in 2022. I'm sure that's a gem.
Isn't there I'm pretty sure there's like a Sadako verse somebody film.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Sadako versus Juan or whatever.
Kayoko.
Oh,
Kayako. Something like that. There's a television series called Ring the Final Chapter, which I'm sure is also
and it comes in chapters. What is that? Why make that a show then?
Of course, there's the Ring Virus, which I already mentioned, was the Korean film in '99, and then the American remake released in 2002. So there's a lot. There's a lot of nonsense.
And then that one's like the Ring 2002 has like 3 sequels or
at least 2 sequels. Yeah.
Okay.
This franchise is more convoluted than fucking Halloween. It's like
it's confusing. Damn.
It's got a lot of branches.
We've never had a Michael Myers verse, so Sadako's got it up on Myers.
Yeah. That's definitely what you want.
That's what we're all waiting on is the verse.
That's what you want.
The Meyer verse.
So yeah, that's all the trivia I've got here. Let's go ahead and jump into our Cooter of the week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Oh, Cooter is a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, but we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points of Cooterdom is sexual deviancy, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall look and attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, do we have a Japanese Cooter this week?
Yeah, I think so. I think.
You think so?
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind is Dr. Akuma.
The doctor. That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
I didn't even think of him. Yeah.
So manipulation, checkaroony.
For sure.
Manipulation is like always the easiest box to check somehow.
Well, sexual deviance is usually
in his case, yes. Sexual deviance sometimes is just not even in the mix at all.
Well, no. You just okay. I
just generally
like spotting wise, like that's
no.
Okay.
I just mean like it's almost like presupposed.
I gotcha.
That they're going to be manipulating somebody.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Patheticness. Yeah. By the end of his life, it's pretty pathetic. He's clearly running from his past and, living in this situation where he doesn't want to be recognized. He doesn't want to. Yeah. He's living in anonymity. Lost it all. Killed his daughter. Not an unpathetic situation.
Not what you want.
Nope.
No.
So
smug
manipulation, patheticness, little sexual deviancy, I guess.
I think yes, because he's a doctor who's sleeping with his ward.
Yeah, patient, yeah. Okay.
And that was the whole scandal. Yeah.
Okay.
Looking attire, I think I don't know enough about like old man wear in Japan to
Tommy
call it
Bahama
out, but
is the thing.
He looked normal in his youth. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
He's dressed like a parrot head. I don't know.
Smug arrogance. I think we probably could get him for like his little kind of demonstration thing. Like part of the exploitation of it is kind of like benefiting off of somebody else, and that's like smug arrogance.
Prove you got to be right by doing your awesome magical bullshit.
Yeah.
You got to be pretty confident and overly confident in his case in order to want to try and make money that way. And so I think you could hit him on a low level. I think if we got more of him, we probably would have seen more of it, but I think it's maybe just a blip for now.
Yeah.
So what is that? That's like 3.5 or some shit.
Yeah.
4.
3.5.
Pretty strong.
Do we need to look at anybody else? Sadako?
Sadako.
I mean, she was thrown down a well, man. I mean, she's.
Yeah, I think she's.
She kind of had a rough. She kind of had a raw deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she also just kind of wants to hurt people. So
dad. Nah.
I don't think so.
He's the get shit done. Like if anything, he's like they give him too many capabilities to where it's kind of like just slightly on the misogynistic side.
He got that swag.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that was a pretty easy Cooter of the week. I think we got him.
We got him.
Dr. Akuma.
We got him.
Lock him up. All
Good
right.
call, Bob.
Let's kick it. Let's chill out and talk about what we've been watching this week.
Kick it.
Hey, gang, what you been watching?
We out here kicking it. All right.
Yeah.
Randeezy, kick us off. What you been watching?
Sure. And now bear in mind, dear listener, that we are recording far in advance. It's currently the 28th of March. So, yeah.
Don't judge me on my.
Don't judge me. I'm late to the party,
ones.
but I'm not that fucking late to the party. I've been watching a little bit, or actually I finished off Poker Face, and I think that show's pretty fucking great. I'm excited for a season 2. It's extremely fun to watch, and I don't know what else to say. Like it's we're kind of in a Columbo renaissance, and that show is basically like modern Columbo, is my understanding. Everybody's all about Columbo now, and that show is kind of doing the work for it. It makes me want to watch that show as well. It's good shit. Natasha Lyonne's fucking fabulous. Ryan Johnson's still my boo. Let's see. I've watched the first 2 episodes of the season 3. I think season 3, the newest season of Ted Lasso, which I quite enjoy. I've also watched the first episode of Succession just to counterbalance the positivity with the most negative thing in the world.
There you go.
The worst people on earth and the best. There you go. You gotta have your angels and demons, I guess. So I've been enjoying those. They've been hitting me just right so far. It's only 1 episode of Succession so far, but I'm looking forward to the pieces that they're putting into play. And then last but not least for me, kind of a short list for me right now, I've picked up Metroid Prime not that long ago, and despite having not a lot of time to play, I have played just a little
remake.
bit. The remaster that they just released on
Master, whatever,
Switch. Which, I mean, I can't tell the difference because I never played the original. I didn't really have much interest in it at the time, but I've always, like we talked about this, I've never been big into the like Metroidvania style, like 2D games. And I thought, you know what, but I love fucking Samus has been my main on Smash Brothers since I was fucking Nintendo 64. I should try and try maybe the 3D version will do me better. Yeah. Like I'm just like Prime is supposed to be a pretty different game. Obviously, because it's 3-dimensional and a classic. So I was like, all right, I'll pick this up. I'm not sure that I am fully grabbed yet. I have not left the first, maybe the second area. But so there's plenty of game to go, and I'm gonna give it a fair shot, and maybe I'll finally get some Samus love in my heart for something other than Smash Bros.
Metroid games are hard. They're hard.
So far, it hasn't been super hard, but I'm again pretty early.
Juice. What are you new? Are you a noob?
Well, to be fair, I've never played Prime.
Like, that's what the whole 10 minutes I just said.
No, I was talking about Justin because you're over here like killing it. Juice.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Prime is blind spot for me. So.
Gotcha. Well, that's it for my what you've been watching. So
cool. Juice. What about you?
So I watched The Boston Strangler, which is a film about the women who kind of broke the story of the Boston Strangler, kind of pieced together that like these maybe murders were connected and stuff like that, and investigating that. So it was pretty good. I don't remember why, but I wanted to watch Sin City. Something popped up. I was like, God, I haven't seen Sin City in a long time. Dude, I was like so shocked. I thought it was going to be one of those things where like I loved it when I was young and I haven't seen it in a long time. And it's like going to be like, okay, but the style's not going to hold up or like something that's going to be off. No, it was so much fun. It was so much fun. The only problem is though, I'm glad I got to experience because in some ways it's like beneficial, but mostly no. Is I watched the version that they re-released, which was like a recut version. It also has some uncut or like extra footage or whatever. But essentially what it is it's all the shorts like pieced together. It's almost like an anthology. It's like the full story here, the full story here, the full story. It's not blended.
That's how they do. That's how the comic book was.
So it's like, it's more like the comic book. But the problem is, it's like as a film, they show the credits after like each one, and then some. Like there's one like Josh Hartnett's one ending doesn't really like work in that
It's like
way.
what, 2 scenes, right?
Yeah, it needs to be part of the main thing because like
how's his
that's how
hair?
the story. Well, yeah, that's fine.
Significantly better, right?
It's gotta be.
Turned that ship around.
Yeah. But overall, though, just the segments in themselves, it was so much fun. So then I was like, holy shit, I completely forgot they made a Sin City 2, which I never watched. So I was like, I'm going to check this out. And then I was pretty disappointed.
Yeah.
Because I was like, how could it get that bad? And to be fair, like, it's not like so terrible. It's just such a disappointment because it also has a stacked cast, a lot like the first one, and it has a lot of the style. It's just one of those things where you become self-aware and you lean like too much into what you think made the first film good, but you're missing the actual ingredient of what made the first film.
It seems forced, man. And it was because for years it was in development hell.
And it does seem so forced, and it's unfortunate because it's all there. Like the actors that they got to be in it are like just as good, and like the storylines I feel like could be like just as good. It's just like it's just they force it too much, and it's such a bummer. It's such a bummer. So I was, I watched that, and it's not so terrible, but it is a big disappointment. I think that's pretty much all I've been. I watched The Ring to cover on I Cut Above.
No way.
Yeah, and I hadn't seen that one maybe since we covered it, which was like so maybe like 8 or 9 years, because that was like in our early 60 run. So it's been a while, and I'm not as like hot on it. It's like okay, it's middling to me. But I appreciate it for like its impact, but it doesn't hold up as well. It's dated. So that's all I've been watching. Bob, what you been watching, my guy?
I also watched The Boston Strangler on Hulu with your girl Keira Knightley in it. I hadn't seen her in a movie in quite a minute. I enjoyed it.
I thought this was a documentary for some reason.
I meant to clarify that, and I forgot to.
No, it's definitely a dramatization of true events. But it's pretty solid. I'd recommend checking it out for sure if you got Hulu. I also watched Birdemic 3 Sea Eagle.
Oh my God. Are they hanging out with their families?
Unfortunately, no, they are not.
Oh.
It is unwatchable.
Oh.
Wow.
Did you get through the whole thing?
Dude,
you're an evangelist.
I know. I sat through the first 25 minutes or so, and I was like, they're actually...
Were you alone?
No, I wasn't. I was hanging out with Mikey, and we waited for a Friday night. We cracked a beer. We put on Birdemic 3. Like, it should have hit. But the thing that's happening is the dude, Wynn, he's trying to make a movie that's like legitimately about climate change. And so he's got these characters that are like just having...
That's what he did in the first one.
Yeah, but there's also like a lot of like really goofy shit that starts happening pretty quickly. But like he's just got random characters trying to have very meaningful conversations about the effects of climate change. And it's like the two main characters run into this person and they talk about one aspect, and they run into another person, they talk about one aspect, they run into another person, they talk about one aspect. And it just keeps happening and happening and happening. And there's no birds flying into anything. No birds for like the first almost like hour. There's like first
holy
hour.
Shit. Really?
Eventually crazy shit starts happening towards the end. But it feels like half-hearted, and like he probably should have just made a documentary or something like it, because it's just not, it doesn't have any like real useful information, and it's definitely not entertaining or funny, because I don't like Birdemic is like a calamity and it's hilarious. And Birdemic 2 is like, it does even crazier, sillier bullshit. And then this one, they went like David Gordon Green on this one.
Those chickens!
Look at all those chickens. They went David Gordon Green, Halloween Ends on this third one. And they were like, let's just fucking shit on everything that everybody expects from a Birdemic movie almost. And we'll try and
That's our goal.
Oh no.
It just didn't work out. So that's a bummer. That's a bummer.
That's a shame.
That is a bummer.
I did watch John Wick 3 this past week because I wanted to revisit those before the new one came out. And I liked it better this time. In my mind, it was like kind of a lukewarm installment, but it actually holds up pretty good. It's still probably my least favorite of the four, but it's still not bad. There's not really a bad entry in the franchise, I don't think. And then I went to the theater to watch John Wick 4, and that shit is just a fucking ball. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
It's a long haul too. It's just shy of 3 hours, but like I did not ever get bored or feel like, you know, the movie's dragging its ass. It's just like insanely gorgeous visuals with like incredible fight sequences over and over again. Every once in a while, Keanu will drop like a couple lines that are maybe not the best acting, but then he just starts kicking ass again, and it doesn't really matter. It's really fucking entertaining and looks.
Don't touch me.
It looks
That's
great.
nuts for an action film, dude. Holy shit.
I had a blast with it. The set pieces are fucking nuts. It's also like it's got such it's a bigger scope than the other ones. It's like they've got some scenes in New York, and then they go to like Berlin, I believe. They spend a good chunk of time in Paris, a good chunk of time in Osaka, and it's just like gorgeous set piece after gorgeous set piece. It's fucking great. I highly recommend watching that shit. It was dope.
Damn. Free pizza.
Free pizza. The cinematography,
That just
man,
goes to show you, you know, don't give up when you hit your lows.
Don't.
When you hit your free pizza point in life, you keep going. You'll get to your job.
It's always darkest just before you die.
You find that rock bottom, and then you got to go up there. You can't go You can't go down any further.
Don't give up.
Fucking cinematography in that movie. The camera movements, the shit they do with that camera is like fucking nuts. It's
like nothing I'd ever smelled before in my life.
Watch it if you haven't. It's great. That's it. That's enough. That's what I've been watching. We don't have any voicemails this week because we're recording so far in advance. But if you guys are listening and want to call in and leave a voicemail for next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Do you guys have any prompts you want to throw out there for the fine folks?
We do
listening?
have.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we've got
we
a prompt.
do. Well, here's a prompt. So presumably, if you've made it this far into this recording, you are at least somewhat interested in our show, at least enough to input that. Some of you quite a lot, and we appreciate you very much. But you know who might not appreciate you is your spouse or partner who has to listen to our dumb bullshit against their wishes in car rides, on road trips, wherever. We want to hear from them. To send us your hatred. We want to be shat on, and we want your spouses who have to put up with our shit to be the ones doing it. Or anybody who you know hates our guts. It's better than the negative iTunes reviews. It's going to be funny.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Your mom, your cranky uncle, your dog, whoever happens to listen to our shit by way of you, and they're like, who are these fucking chuckleheads? What the fuck? Yeah. Let them call.
Tell us we don't know shit. As if we don't know that.
It's
Please
the airing of grievances here on Straight Chilling.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Come at us, bros.
904-638-3231. Grow up, bro. Yeah, that's going to wrap us up here on The Ring, or just Ring. We're going to be back next week with a brand new show. As always, we're going to be talking about that new Evil Dead hotness, Evil Dead Rise. Pretty stoked about that. Looking forward to it.
As of this recording, we have not seen it.
Well, as of this
And we are
recording,
excited.
we're talking about watching something next that's actually going to be in like 2 months. So
I'm so excited for 2 months from now.
It's gonna be
Actually, yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But we are gonna be watching that movie in just a few days.
We're going to be watching it next week,
Which is
actually.
very, very
You're
exciting.
not, Juice.
wow.
Sorry.
Whoa. Wow. Whoa.
So slam your eyeballs into Evil Dead Rise. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, find us on social media. Just search Straight Chilling Podcast. We are everywhere. You will find us. Hit us up on straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join us on the daily Slack channel conversations, just let us know on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link so you can join in on the fun. We got a great little community of like-minded folks. We talk about the movie of the week, of course, TV shows, video games, our pets, trade recipes, and just fucking get each other's back. It's a good time. Join. That's gonna do it this week at Straight Chilling. Until next time, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.